Chapter 1839. Surrounding a person, a crimson light fell from the sky, like a curtain, emerging from the earth and heading straight for the ice storm. Rumble. The magnificent ice storm, like a tsunami, was split directly in the middle and diverted into two halves. Morana took this opportunity to get closer to Loridek. She was covered in dark blue frost armor and gripped a black scythe with a blue glow in her right hand as she charged at Loridek in a wide arc. Since you are guarding the abyss behind you, you cannot leave. So you will definitely be affected by my power. Morana had already planned everything in her heart, and she did not need to say anything else to Zhang Yi. If she even had to tell him what to do, then Chaos would never have become a mutant of the White Bishop level. Loridek was already a little overwhelmed by the various attacks, and when he suddenly attacked Morana next to him, he was about to parry back with a backhand sword strike when space suddenly stopped. A huge spherical space appeared with Morana at its center. In the formless space, everything was in a state of stillness. Zhang Yi and the others could even see King Arthur's sword slash. The energy body even took on the shape of an energy wave in midair, moving forward at a speed that was almost invisible to the naked eye. Zhang Yi did not hesitate to use Space Shuffle to go forward, and then called out to Yang Xinxin from within shadow space. This may not work. I always feel like I'm not seizing the right moment. Yang Xinxin frowned, but still reached out and summoned the fallen angel puppet. The huge angel puppet hidden in the black clouds was tattered and patched together, as if it had been put together with scraps picked up from the rubbish heap, giving it an eerie appearance. In particular, there were even a pair of white as jade hands in the black clouds, dexterously manipulating the strands of silk. Let's just try it first, Zhang Yi said directly. Whether it succeeds or not, we have to try it to find out. There were more than 20 epsilons present, each with formidable abilities. Even if this move could not directly kill Loridek, it would always be good to force some of his trump cards. Yang Xinxin nodded, and from the black clouds descended strands of silk that controlled Zhang Yi's hands. The fallen angel puppet's abilities, combined with Zhang Yi's destined reincarnation, could precisely lock onto an opponent and predict their trajectory, thereby achieving the wonderful effect of an attack veering midair. The strength of this move lies in its suddenness, making it impossible to dodge by attacking the trajectory of the shot. Zhang Yi's hands were manipulated by Yang Xinxin, who pulled back the huge black longbow. A black feather fell into his palm and turned into an arrow. The bowstring was taut, the bow bent like a full moon, and with a whoosh sound, the black arrow flew out of his hand and shot towards the field of absolute zero. The arrow entered the field, slowing down but still moving incredibly fast compared to everything else. It was moving at a steady pace towards Loridek. However, at this moment, Zhang Yi suddenly saw a smile appear on Loridek's face. The uneasy feeling in Zhang Yi's heart reappeared. Loridek knew this move, because Demon God Yi had died from this move. The images of that battle would be synchronized between them, so Loridek could not help but be on guard. But what was he going to do? Just as Zhang Yi and the others were staring at Loridek with fixed eyes, his body suddenly moved. It moved in the almost straight space. At first, it was just a slight tremor, but then the tremor became faster and faster. Morina watched this happen, and her ice blue eyes slowly opened wider. She knew that there was nothing wrong with her abilities, and that her absolute zero had indeed had an effect on Loridek. But she had overlooked a very important point. Lord X's body was not made of flesh and blood, but of machinery. It was impossible to measure it using human reasoning. Lord X's abilities had not yet been fully revealed. If he had not been guarding the six-winged sovereign behind him and had used his full power, he would have been enough to kill all the humans in front of him. As a mutant, he can absorb the power of attacks and store it inside his body to use as his own power. As a cyborg, his body can be overclocked. It doesn't matter if his body is frozen, because as long as time isn't truly still, it's fine to move at a speed 1,000 or 10,000 times faster. What is difficult for a human body to do, a demon god body can do. Lord X's body was moving at such a high speed that he was even beginning to walk within the domain of absolute zero. Yang Xinxin's Trojan horse implantation must be shot at his body in order to take effect, and whoever wants to completely control him must shoot at the flesh. He stared at the arrow, his body trembling frantically as he turned sideways and let the arrow pass through his chest. Morana and Yang Xingxing's joint attack failed. Yang Xingxing leisurely told Zhang Yi to draw the bow again, and the second arrow was offered again. If the leader of the 10 demon gods could be killed so easily, that would be strange, wouldn't it? The failure did not surprise her, but instead she felt that it should be so. But so what? She had many chances, but Loridek only needed to make one mistake and get hit by an arrow, and then he would be finished for good. Loridek had no psychic powers and could not attack Morana, who was exerting her domain. But for the time being, only Yang Xinxin could harm him, and the others could not help at all. Zhang Yi pulled the bowstring with both hands, and this time, 5 arrows were placed on the bowstring.
Whoosh!
Whoosh, whoosh. The black arrows with their cold gleam shot towards the field of absolute zero once again. Loridex's body was still trembling, and white smoke was even beginning to rise from his body, as if something was burning furiously within him. That was his energy furnace working at full capacity, using mechanical power to counter the mutant's supernatural power. Is this the power that killed Platos? It really is difficult to deal with. Is this the path of alienation that we abandoned? Although it is not conducive to the evolution of the group, and the flaws are very obvious. However, due to the existence of special abilities, super powerful individuals will be born. Lord X's body was almost on fire, and the black metal on him was stained with a reddish tinge. However, the nature of all supernormal abilities is also just psychokinesis. Only machinery can break through the shackles of the flesh. His movements became more and more exaggerated, and eventually, within the space of absolute zero, he dodged the 5 arrows shot by Zhang Yi at breakneck speed. Then he hurled the broken sword in his left hand towards Morana in the distance. The broken sword in Loridek's hand was thrown at Morana, and although it was slow, it contained extremely powerful energy. Morana had no doubt that this sword, if it touched her in the slightest, could obliterate her on the spot. The range of absolute zero is limited, so when she used her ability, she was no more than 2 kilometers away from Loridek in a straight line. It was very difficult to dodge the sword. Morana could not move as freely in the field of absolute zero as she could outside, and she was actually limited, even if she was faster than ordinary people. After weighing the pros and cons, she decided that since Yang Xinxin's fallen angel puppet was unable to gain control of Lord X's body, there was no point in continuing to maintain the field. She instantly released her ability, then dodged Lord X's broken sword. As she sped away, the broken sword fell at an unimaginable speed to the spot where she had just been. Then, a terrifying energy swept in all directions, and a deafening roar sounded, followed by a vacuum around it. Looking down from the sky, one could see a huge scarlet energy sphere, as dazzling as a burning flame. Just as I thought, Zhang Yi frowned slightly at the sight, feeling a little disappointed, but not too surprised. When he fought Platos, he knew that absolute zero could not completely stop time. Platos could move within the absolute zero domain for a limited time, so of course Loridek could too. And with prior preparation, Loridek was even more at ease. It wasn't that Marana's absolute zero zone was not terrifying, but the power of Loridek and Platos was so terrifying that they could use the strength of the demon god's body to move around in the absolute zero zone. But even such a bug-level method could not kill Loridek, and it would be even more difficult to kill him by other means. From beginning to end, Loridek stood at the edge of the abyss, never moving. The allied forces of mankind, facing the last demon god of mechanical civilization, were at a loss as to what to do. If we fight forcefully, we can win. But we will also have to pay a very heavy price. Saladin's voice came faintly. They, the top mutants of mankind at the White Bishop level, would not know how many of them would die by then. However, without killing Loridek, this war could not be completely over. And the thing beneath the abyss also made everyone feel panic. At this moment, Zhang Yi's voice sounded in the chat channel. It is indeed very difficult to kill him, but isn't it just as good to interfere with his actions? Everyone's minds flashed with doubts upon hearing this, and they didn't know why Zhang Yi had said this. Zhang Yi was suspended in midair, next to the doll like Yang Xinxin. As Loridek faced the allied forces, a loud noise sounded behind him. Loridek's eyes flashed with a sudden look of panic. He turned around instinctively and saw the entire abyss collapsing rapidly. Yang Xinxin said indifferently, Trojan horse implantation can control everything that exists, both organic and inorganic matter. Although the arrows did not hit Loridek, they all hit the walls of the edge of the abyss. This provided the opportunity for the barriers around the abyss to collapse, and the result was inevitable. The enormous abyss didn't know what was going on at the moment, but judging from its size, it was at least 1,000 meters deep. The soil around the abyss had long since been compressed to a density greater than that of stone, and both the nuclear explosion half a century ago and the war in recent days had made it extraordinary. So, when the entire abyss collapsed, how much rock would fall? Billions of tons was probably just the unit of measurement. Even a mutant of the Black Chariot level would have a hard time avoiding this kind of pressure and would not dare to resist head-on. If there was really some important work going on below, it would definitely be affected. From Loridek's expression, Zhang Yi and Yang Xinxin understood that they had made the right choice. Brian saw this and immediately said in a serious voice, "Let me help you." He pressed his two paws downwards, and supergravity directly increased the gravity in that area, causing the ground to collapse even faster and the boulder to fall even more ferociously. Loridek clenched his sword in his hand, trying to do something, but the collapse was a chain reaction, and even the ground under his feet completely collapsed. The boulders rolled and fell, and the ground's collapse showed no signs of stopping, as if they were trying to fill the abyss completely. "Do it!" King Arthur and the others took advantage of Loridek's moment of distraction and attacked from behind. Loridek was extremely anxious at this time, because an extremely important ritual was taking place below, which would determine whether or not their entire civilization could continue. But there was nothing he could do at this time, and he could only pray in his heart that the king below could successfully complete the ritual. He turned around, his gaze burning with rage, as he looked at Zhang Yi and the others. "You damned fools, you really are looking for death." For the first time, he moved his feet. First, he summoned back the broken sword, then held two battle swords in both hands, arms raised. The next moment, he disappeared from everyone's view. A chaotic wind accompanied by successive sonic booms approached the coalition forces on the ground of Chernobyl. Loridek has finally launched his offensive. Marana's eyes are filled with a frosty rage as she presses her hands into the ground, causing icebergs to rise up and block Loridek's path. A red flash of light rises up into the sky as the icebergs are cleaved in half by a single sword strike. Brian once again uses his power. Feel the charm of the heavy pressure. 10,000 times the force of gravity, crushing the bones of a human, was pressed down hard on Loridek's body. However, his body only paused slightly before charging towards the group again. His mechanical body could operate in a harsh environment of absolute zero, let alone this mere 10,000 times the force of gravity. Brian shouted in surprise. Weightlessness. This time, it didn't have a significant effect on Loridek either. Similarly, he had seen Brian's methods through the eyes of his companions, and the demon god's body had already developed ways to guard against it. Zhang Yi let out a sigh, and in the direct path of Loridek's charge, he opened his own dimensional gate. This is the most powerful defensive ability in the world today. The fluctuations in space could not escape Loridek's senses, but he did not try to avoid them. Instead, he raised the broken sword, which symbolized killing and destruction, and unsophisticatedly slashed down. The energy furnace was running at high speed, and the red sword light spurted out from the blade, slashing directly at everything under heaven with terrifying might. Zhang Yi could clearly feel his dimensional gates cracking open one after the other. It was like glass shattering, breaking into layers, and then being quickly filled in by other dimensional gates. This single slash shattered hundreds of Zhang Yi's dimensional gates. Lord Exord was terrifying. The burst of energy made everyone feel their hearts race. What shocked them even more was that Zhang Yi actually blocked the attack without a scratch. Is this the chaos of the Huaxiao Kingdom's absolute defense? Saladin looked at Zhang Yi and muttered, his eyes full of seriousness as he regarded a powerful opponent. King Arthur was also a little surprised, but then a smile curled the corner of his mouth. Very good, this is the kind of man who can become my opponent. Lord Exor did not slash the gate of 3,000 realms, but it poured out a large amount of energy from his energy furnace, inevitably creating a short period of power vacuum. Zhang Yi had fought against demon god-level opponents several times, and after Liu Karen's research, he had figured out their fighting style. They could use the burning of red energy crystals to erupt with unparalleled power. But this kind of overloaded attack method would inevitably bring negative effects. The wear and tear of the body goes without saying, and a temporary gap in energy is one of the fatal loopholes in their defense. But how could they deal with Lori Deck, whose defenses were virtually unbreakable? With Zhang Yi's methods, they simply could not, unless they could instantly create a power comparable to the explosive core of the Reaper of Love. So Zhang Yi took out a red energy crystal and inserted it into the barrel of the Divine Refinement. This mysterious red crystal was the core product of mechanical civilization's technology, and even the demon god's body relied on it for power. Liu Karen has yet to fully understand how to create it. But it doesn't matter if you don't understand the principles, as long as you know how to use it. Divine Refinement rapidly changed, the barrel of the gun becoming thicker and longer, and in an instant a 3-meter-long hand cannon appeared in Zhang Yi's right hand. The barrel was aimed at Lori Deck, who was now less than 3 kilometers away. This distance was within the range of Zhang Yi's sniper ability, Destined Reincarnation. Without the slightest hesitation, the moment Lord X's attack missed its mark, Zhang Yi's Divine Refinement also exploded with a shocking strike as he pulled the trigger.
Boom.
The roar came from the barrel of the gun, and the powerful recoil almost sent Zhang Yi flying backwards. Fortunately, the submarine dragon armor provided him with assistance, helping him to stabilize his form. However, his right hand was also bloodied and his hand was in pain from the shock, but the power of the shot was also mind-bogglingly powerful. A whole red energy crystal was used by Zhang Yi to extract energy in the simplest way, unleashing a powerful attack. The red energy cannon transformed into a pillar of light, heading straight for Lori Deck. That familiar power caused Lord X's expression to change slightly as well. It was the aura of his comrade. Lori Deck gritted his teeth, but still, without panicking, he raised the sword in his hand and tried to forcefully devour the power. The black blade pointed straight ahead, and the enormous power was like a red torrent devouring everything in its path, so that Lord X's visual system could no longer accept anything else. Powerful and beautiful, like a gorgeous rose blooming in death. Lord X knew very well how powerful this move was. It was the source of their mechanical civilization's technological prowess. He raised his sword and pointed it forward. However, at the moment when the terrifying torrent was about to reach the tip of his sword, it suddenly disappeared. Lord X's brain shut down for a moment, but there was no time for him to think, because the next moment, his back was hit directly by a powerful force. It was as if the god of heaven was holding a heavy hammer and slammed it down hard. Screech, screech. Even the top-level demon god, Mecha, let out a sound of distortion at this moment. Lori Deck realized at this moment that the attack in front of him had inexplicably shifted behind him. Destined Reincarnation, time plus space ability. The principle is actually very simple, using the ability of the second hand of time to predict the opponent's movements within 3 seconds, and then in the instant of sniping, setting up a dimensional gate in front of the trajectory to forcibly change the direction of the attack. Zhang Yi's dimensional gate has a radius of 4 kilometers centered on himself, so he can completely shift it behind Lori Deck before the attack is absorbed by Lori Deck. Lord X's body was fiercely knocked into the air, flying in the direction of Zhang Yi and the others. As he was flying in the air, Brian's gaze immediately became serious. Being off the ground was the best time to make use of his gravity ability. He slammed his claws into the ground. And supergravity. Lord X's body was crushed by 1,000,000 tons of weight and slammed into the ground.
Boom.
His body fell to the ground and sank deep into the soil. Then everyone's various attacks bombarded him without a gap. After an unknown period of time, Lord X's body once again soared up from the ground. However, at this time, it was already clear that multiple cracks had appeared in his indestructible body. In particular, on his back, a hideous wound spread from his right shoulder to the small of his back, which was extremely frightening. Why don't we attack their shield with their spear? Zhang Yi used the methods of attack of mechanical civilization against the demon god machine of mechanical civilization, and it was ultimately proven that the power unleashed by the red energy crystal was something even they could not fully resist. But the key was still the suddenness of Zhang Yi's move. This method of attack was the first time Zhang Yi had used it in battle, so it completely took Lord X by surprise and caused him to fall prey to it. Zhang Yi has so many methods of attack, but in actuality, they are all variations of his three abilities: dimensional space, the second hand of time, and the power of the void. Combined with the various heat weapons and his dimensional space, they can be arranged in countless ways to become countless offensive methods. To put it bluntly, all those skills are the result of brainstorming. However, Lord X's computing power could not be applied to Zhang Yi alone, which led to an oversight. That blow did a lot of damage to Lord X, which could be seen from his physical state. King Arthur's sword was pointed at his head, and they had no intention of giving Lord X a chance to breathe, preparing to finish him off in one fell swoop. But at this moment, a smile suddenly curled the corner of Lord X's mouth. He never looked at Zhang Yi and the others again, and then, as if relieved, he turned around and looked at the falling abyss.